Good morning. Welcome to the Karen Smith Frazier podcast. Come on in and let me know where you are tuning in from. Welcome, welcome. Today's podcast is number 77. How much is using common sense keeping you from your goals? All right, come on in. Let's give you a couple of seconds here. There we go. All right. Again, this is Karen Smith Frazier, and welcome to today's podcast. I'm a former registered nurse turned personal development and empowerment coach who helps predominantly women of a certain age, usually over 40, who are going through transitions in health, work, relationships, and I'm helping them move from settling with what they've got now to making some brave moves to get what they want with the revenue to boot. There's no place for feeling guilty for pouring into yourself. Just saying. It was over 4 years ago after a car accident that this idea hit home. How long was I going to wait to step back from that which had supported me up until that point? Nursing was my jam. But I needed to move toward uncovering some other talents, reclaiming them and unleashing them in a way that continues to serve and was a cleaner fit for the woman I was becoming. Does it sound familiar to you? Just because things worked and felt right 20 years ago doesn't mean it fits now. And it doesn't mean that anything drastically went wrong. Yeah, like a favorite pair of jeans. It seems like it would be nice to shrink myself to get into them again, but nah, I'm good. How often do we shrink our opinions or belief in ourselves? What's usually holding us back from making, in many cases, an obvious change? Lots of things, but the most common is right here between your ears. Our thinking. It's not always the stinking thinking, also known as negative self-talk, but the other one is what I'm going to talk about today, limited thinking. Think back on your own lives. You were told to go to school, get good grades, learn a trade, or go to college so that you could earn an income, raise a family, and be a responsible member of society. Now, there is nothing wrong with having common sense in this way, but when does it just become indoctrination in a system that used to work well for some within the norms of yesteryear? But now with the advent of technology and access to more information, maybe it's time to dream bigger. It tends to be logical, based on fact and lived experiences, and ultimately, common sense wants to keep us safe, wants to help us to avoid struggles. But as you and I know, there is one thing that cannot be avoided. Anyone have any guesses? Yeah. The one thing that cannot be avoided, no matter how much we try, is struggle. It's at these times that it may feel like the common sense way is not the only way to navigate life. We end up getting creative. So how many of us did the common sense thing? Went to school, got a degree, but found that we could not find a job in the field and ended up doing something completely different to earn a living. Maybe we started dating and found that the one that seemed to check all the boxes, the common sense choice, feels comfortable with the habitual way of being a couple, but you're having more challenges to keep the spark going. And what about health? We learned that eating certain foods and movement would keep us healthy, but unexpectedly, we're faced with a health scare and find ourselves relying on sense that isn't too common. Faith that something better and even more abundant is waiting for us and heals. Price Pritchard, author of U Squared, offers a bit of insight through a story. A fly got into his home and desperately wants a change, wants to get out of there. So it tries flying through the window, the glass. Over and over, it sees its goal and continues to fly against the glass, wearing itself out and soon ready to give up. The thing is, 10 feet away is an open door. No screen, no glass, nothing in the way. When the view of the entire situation was broadened, it was clear that another potential solution to the problem, the struggle, was seconds away. Pritchard goes on to say, trying harder isn't necessarily the solution for achieving more. If you put all your hopes for a breakthrough on trying harder than ever, you may kill your chances of success. Now, regarding the fly, and you and me, there are times that it does seem like we are banging our heads against the window and wondering why we are not making it through. A barrier can be clear, and our logical minds say clear is a safe passage. Taking a step back and assessing the environment allows us to refocus efforts in a more efficient and effective way. But banging into the window is creating lessons for us too, other than a headache. Success can look like failure in this case. You're learning that that plan isn't working. The fly got data that this ain't the way out. If it doesn't look for and go for an alternative, its flying days may be over soon. So instead of trying what you've always done or doubling down on those specific habits, what if we ignored the usual? Now, several months ago, I shared a goal with my coach. His response was, "That's nice, but now I want to hear about your God-sized goal." Essentially, a goal that I do not know all the steps to get there, and one that will require me to think out of the box and try something different, not just try harder in the most familiar and, in my mind, logical way. Creating that space for another perspective and some new moves may actually lead to less resistance. It is possible to do more with less. So, is your common sense thinking keeping you from your biggest goals? You might be if, one, you hit every target you set easily and don't really feel like you are growing or testing your limits. Another way to check is if you have no or little passion for what you're doing right now. Or maybe achieving your goals are pretty much keeping you where you are right now. Achieving the goal won't affect your finances or personal development. And one more other way to check is if you know you're playing it safe and have not decided for a change yet. I mean, you just know you've kind of settled. Sometimes we say we're going to do something different, but we need to decide for that dream. We need to decide for that goal. And how can you move beyond sticking with common sense goal setting? Well, I'm so glad you asked. First, I'll give you three things that you can do. You can pick a goal where you have a 50-50 chance of achieving a win. This forces you to try, and not just try, but to put yourself out there and invest some courage into something new. Number two, keep your baseline goals so that you don't totally get stressed out, but add some stretch goals. These are the ones that you can attach to current goals that may require some actions that make you feel a bit uncomfortable, almost so that you can prove to yourself that you can do new things and harder things than you generally choose to do. Finally, and most importantly, focus on your why. Time and time again, the make or break is whether your goals and dreams are compatible with your why. What really is deeply important to you? What moves you? What is your ideal space, your ideal way of seeing the world or being in the world? Your legacy is at risk, as well as the impact only you can make on your family, community, and in the world. Now, if you achieve 100% of your goals, congratulations. But most likely, the goals are way too small for your brilliance. Playing small is playing safe. When your common sense does not take into account the wisdom you have acquired over the years, professionally, in relationships, work scenarios, and the like, who are the ones that suffer most? If your passion has run dry, figure out why. You might want to focus on your why. Could it be that you have been doing all the right things for much of your life, but you know in your soul that you have changed and are changing in the way and you're changing from the way you used to do things? It's just not fulfilling anymore. You may be settling for less than the ideal and have resolved to ride it out. Just ride it out like this by settling for good enough for me instead of the good life. Bringing this in for landing. And I hope you're getting value. Thanks for tuning in, those who are tuning in live and those who will watch the replay. Thanks for being here. If in doubt of whether your goals and actions are too small, remember the 50% rule. This could be as simple as requesting something. A yes or no answer is a 50-50 chance. Number 2, set some stretch goals. Add a little something to your current goals, a little spice. And 3, remember your why. There needs to be some passion pulling you forward, and your why is usually the catalyst to get things feeling uncomfortable with the status quo and get you rolling and more open to expand your horizons. Now, hoping you got some value from today's podcast. And I would love if you could put a comment in the chat. And please let me know if you want to be added to my mailing list. I'll be sending out a newsletter, and I would love for you to know what's going on when my master classes are coming up, and send you the registration links when they are available. So as always, I remind you, unleash your brilliance, uncover your light. The world is waiting for you. Have a great day, everybody. Have a great week.